Hi, I'm Jessica Ramberg, Director of Digital Media at the America East Conference. The America East Three Pillars Academy focuses on providing professional development and educational opportunities to administrators, student athletes, and coaches, both outside and inside the conference through its leadership initiatives. Athletic excellence, academic achievement, and leadership on and off the field. These are the three pillars of the America East Conference. We're joined with Kevin DeShazo on the Three Pillars Academy digital series, and we're going to talk about coaches, social media, and branding yourself. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining us.
Excited to be with you guys talking about social media and helping coaches out.
Kevin is the founder of Fieldhouse Media and a best-selling author of books like this, Leadership Interrupted, an inspiration, becoming the leader you were meant to be. Our commissioner, Amy, handed this book out to us, and our staff loves using it. Highly recommended. Kevin, you're passionate about helping people tell their story. You've spoken at campuses, national conventions, and conferences, including the America East. First, tell us about yourself, your experiences, your profession.
Yeah, so again, excited to be with you guys. Love the America East. Have known Amy for a number of years and have enjoyed serving you guys and some of your membership. So I started a company called Fieldhouse Media about 8 years ago, and the idea was really around social media education for student athletes, because it was such a negative topic. It was so toxic. Student athletes were being banned. All the conversation was really negative. And I just thought it could be, if they knew how to use it well, it could be really useful. And so started Fieldhouse Media, didn't know anyone. I was just a sports fan with a Twitter account, but understood branding and social media. And so I used Twitter to connect with ADs, with coaches, with SIDs, with commissioners, whoever I could find, to share this idea that social media isn't the bad guy. And so that started to grow. We realized that we can't just be educating student athletes. If we want to really make that last, we also have to equip administrators and coaches on A, how their student athletes are using it, but B, how and why they should be using it. They are some of the frontline brand ambassadors. It's not just what the schools are doing on their accounts. It's what coaches are doing and why that impacts recruiting and fan engagement and community relations. And so over the last 8 years, we've been on over 200 campuses, probably 100,000 athletes, coaches, and administrators that we've had conversations with. And then that's shifted to now we also have a brand called Culture Wins, where we do leadership and culture building for college athletics.
Let's jump in to talking about social media and coaches. Number one, how can social media be a powerful tool towards branding yourself as a coach?
You know, the beauty of social media is that, number one, it's free, right? The only cost that we have is our time. And we all have time if we choose to see the value in social media. And that's where I think a lot of people don't get it because they just don't see the value that can come from it. And so they don't put the time into it. But if I'm a coach, you're the CEO of your program. Everyone wants to hear from you. You know, yes, maybe your department should tweet and post and write more about your program, but you're the driver of everything around the program. You're with the players all day, every day. You know their stories, you know their backgrounds, you know the effort they're putting in, you know your team culture. So you should be the one driving that message, because the way you use social media shapes everyone's perception of you and the program. And again, it's free. And so when I love talking to coaches to say, you know, if you had a tool, let's say you're a volleyball coach and there were 3,000 people who cared deeply about volleyball, and especially volleyball at your school. 3,000 people around the country. What if you had a way to reach the people who really cared about your program? And at the push of a button, you could reach 3,000 people. You would say, wow, where do I sign up? And how much does it cost? Say, well, what if it's free? Okay, what am I missing? Twitter or Instagram, right? And that's the beauty of it, is that you get to control the message, you get to control the brand and talk directly to the people who care about your program.
What type of intentional content could a coach share on their social platforms?
And this is where a lot of coaches and a lot of people, they get lost. Like, I just don't know what to share. I don't know what to say. Nobody's interested in my lunch. It's like, you're right. They're not interested in your lunch. So don't take a picture of that, right? When you go sit down at McDonald's and you're eating a hamburger, don't take a picture of it and don't put it on Twitter or Instagram. But for coaches, you know, they walk into the same locker room every day, the same field every day, the same court every day, the same bus. Everything's pretty normal to them. But to your fans and to your recruits and to your community, that's all new information. That's all inside access. And so if I'm a coach, I'm putting my content into a few buckets of who am I? Yes, I'm a coach of this team. okay, what content can I create around being a coach? And when we say create content, we don't need to overcomplicate that, right? Again, you don't need to match what your department is putting out, right? They've got a creative team. That's their job, to create high level content. You're a human. So it doesn't have to be polished content, but you also don't want to have your phone like swinging around where it's like, is that Bigfoot? I'm not sure what that's a picture of. But have content that fits into your bucket as a coach. Have content that maybe fits into your bucket as a spouse, as a parent, as a family person. That doesn't mean you have to share every detail about your kids, but that's humanizing you on social media, that you're more than just a coach, that you're a husband, you're a wife, you're a parent. Maybe you do some public speaking. So you have some content about when you're speaking at conventions, or if you love motivational and inspirational stuff. So you put out inspirational, motivational content. And again, so don't overcomplicate this. These can be just simple quotes. These can be pictures. If I'm a soccer coach, I'm going to take a picture of the field right before we go on practice. I'm not going to post it then, right? Because you're in go mode, but I'm going to take a picture. Or maybe when our players are coming off the field after practice, and maybe an hour later when I'm back at my desk and I've got time, I'm going to post that picture and mention something about practice. Simple content, but it's just finding those moments in your day that are share worthy, that give people an inside look into who you are as a coach and what kind of program that you're running.
And since things are always changing in the social media space, the platforms, the technology, how can coaches kind of keep up on some of the best practices when using social media?
This is also a difficult thing, right? Because I hear from coaches when I'm on campus, like, oh, there's Facebook and there's Twitter and there's Instagram and there's Snapchat and there's YouTube. And I don't know how am I supposed to keep up with all this? And number one, I would say don't, right? You can't be everywhere. Just as I would say with a department, if you're a department that's on 8 channels, you're going to be average on 8 channels. Pick a couple and be great on those channels. And so for a coach, you've got to figure out who your audience is. And if I'm a coach, I've got 2 audiences. It's my recruits I'm trying to reach, and then my current community, right? I'm trying to engage with, those are my main 2. There's others, right? There's the media, there's all sorts of other audiences, but figure out your main 2, and figure out where they spend the most time. And for the sports world, Twitter is still king. Even with high school athletes, high school kids don't use Twitter as much, but high school athletes do. But if I'm a coach, I'm going to spend time on Twitter and time on Instagram today, because those are the 2 main platforms where you're going to reach young people. But again, that doesn't mean if you're a coach, take the pressure off of being everywhere and of spending all day there, right? It can be 1 or 2 posts a day. That takes you 2.5, 3 minutes, right? Don't get this thing in your mind where it's a burden. I don't have time to be on Twitter all day. You don't need to be there all day. Let the professionals be there all day. The people who are creating content for a living. You just have to have 1 or 2 posts a day, but think about where your people are. And if you don't know, ask your student athletes. Then you get to have a great conversation. Hey guys, where are you spending your time on social media? Ask your players. Hey, what kind of content would you want to see from me? Because it's also a great tool to motivate your current players when they're not in the gym or in the weight room or with you. They're going to follow you on social media. So it's a great way to keep them motivated, to inspire them. But ask them, guys, where are you spending your time? What would you want to see from me on social media? What would be useful for you guys and for our recruits?
In the coach's perspective, what's the importance of them having that filter that their content could potentially reach potential student athletes?
Oh, it's huge. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was with a program about 2 years ago, small program, I think it was D2. And after we did a session with coaches and staff, one of the coaches comes up, he said, older gentleman, he said, hey, this is great, but I just think it's a waste of time. I said, awesome. I'm glad you value what I do for a living. But your AD brought me here, so they value it. So maybe you should value things that your boss values. And I said, do you have a few minutes? And he said, sure. And I said, give me a name of a kid you're recruiting right now. And so we found the kid, made sure it was him. It was pretty easy because the kid's in uniform and says what school he goes to. And I said, okay, this young man posted 4 times yesterday, 4 times on Twitter. He was probably on Twitter 10 times, but we know he was there at least 4 times. And I said, now let's find another coach that's in your conference is probably also recruiting this kid. So we found a coach, and we saw this kid was following this coach. And that coach had posted twice the previous day, and each time within about 5 minutes of when this kid had posted, this recruit. I said, Coach, who do you think that kid's thinking about today? Because he saw that, it's reasonable to assume he saw that coach's name and a picture or whatever twice yesterday. He saw nothing from you. I said, and that's just one recruit and one other coach. And he said, well, I'm about relationships. I said, you should be, because relationships are the distinguishing factor. Nobody's saying take away the relationship with the kid. This is just another avenue to create awareness, right? It's brand awareness. You want to be front of mind for a recruit. And so if you're creating content, and again, let's not overdo what content is, right? Let's simplify it. But if you're creating content consistently, you're going to be front of mind for these kids. And if you do it intentionally, right? If you get good at it and you have a purpose, you're showing them what kind of coach you are. You're showing them the culture that you have in your program, because you can tell them a lot of things on the phone or when you're sitting on their couch face to face. But when they're seeing what you're actually doing in practice and on the road, that becomes a huge advantage. Because saying, wait a minute, this guy, I love the culture. These kids are having fun. That's a team I want to play for. I think I like the coach, but I'm seeing what they're doing as a team. I'm all in on this guy. And it's not just the recruits, by the way, it's the parents of recruits, right? They're going to follow the coach as well. And they're asking the question, is this a coach that I want my son or daughter to play for? What kind of leader is he? What kind of leader is she? What kind of culture is she building? And we can see all those things through social media.
How can a coach use that social media to interact with the community, the fans, institutions that they're coaching at?
Yeah, I think it's just spending time, and you have time. So that's one of the biggest things I hear from coaches and from administrators. I'm just busy. I don't have time. And what we're really saying is that we don't value it, because we do have time and we spend time on what we value. And again, we overcomplicate thinking, oh, I don't have hours a day. You don't need hours a day. My challenge to coaches and administrators, again, is one post in the morning, one post in the afternoon, because you're going to hit different audiences. And it takes you probably 45 seconds to type out that post. So you've got a minute and a half a day. If you don't, then we need to have a different conversation, right? Because your work-life balance is terrible. But if you want people to care about your program, you have to care about those people. And by caring about those people, it's engaging with them on social media. I love finding coaches who will reply to fans on Twitter, right? It's social media for a reason. It's not just broadcasting content. Well, let's build relationship. That shows them that you're human. That shows them that you care. That shows them that you're listening. And one of the best examples, he's not a coach. And Amy's a great example, right? She's running a conference. So Amy's busier than most people that I know. And then you look at Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas. He's running University of Texas athletic department, and he engages with fans on Twitter all day long. He's busier than most people, yet he still finds time to engage. And people say, why do you do that? He says, hey, if they care about our program, I want them to know that I care about them. And the best way to do that is to respond. And that just creates more buy-in. And so if you're engaging, you should, if you're a coach, you should be out on campus, hanging out with students, giving away pizzas, hanging out at the student union, building relationships, same thing across campus. But if you can also do those things on social media, it just creates more awareness, more engagement, more buy-in for your program, because they see that you're not just a coach. Like, the coaching game has changed, right? You're not just a coach anymore. You're a brand ambassador. You're a marketer. You have to figure out all these different things. And the best way to get people to care is to spend time with them. And the easiest way to spend time with people today that aren't your team is through social media. So again, it doesn't have to be hours a day, just a few things here and there engaging with fans.
Since we know social media is just a big part of people's daily lives, however, some are still hesitant to kind of get on that space. So why do you feel some coaches are hesitant to adopting the use of social media?
For the most part, I think it's fear, which really comes from a lack of just understanding what social media really is, because they hear all the negatives and think, why would I want to be involved? I don't want to talk about myself all day long. Nobody's interested in me at the grocery store, right? They hear all the noisy kind of dumb stuff. But social media is far more than that. And for me, it's, if you look and see who's on social media, right? We like to joke that it's the people in their mom's basement or unemployed. It's like, no, world leaders are on social media. Leaders in every industry are on social media. That's how I built Fieldhouse Media, by finding athletic directors on social media. So it's realizing, what social media actually is, figuring out the value you can get. Because if you're a coach or a CEO or anything, if there was a tool that can help you and your program be more successful, you should want to use that tool. And you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to use it all day long. And if I'm a coach who's hesitant, you don't want to just jump in, because it's going to be not a great experience, right? What I always recommend coaches do, who are just starting on social media, or if they've been on it for a while and it's just not what they thought, or they don't really have a plan, have your account, follow 20, 30 coaches that are maybe in your sport or just around the NCAA and at the pro level. Follow 20 to 30 leaders. Watch how they use social media. What does this guy do? What does she do? How are they using social media? Okay, what can I do like that fits my personality. You don't want to copy other people because they're unique, but what are they doing that you can make unique to your program, that you can personalize, say, okay, well, that makes sense. I can do that. That's better than what I thought social media was. And so it's just a simple way to just sit back and learn for a couple weeks. And then you figure out a game plan. It's like, all right, I've watched all these people. Now here's how I'm going to do it for myself. And that can take away some of the fear, some of the lack of understanding when you just spend some time on it. And we've seen coaches, I'm blanking on a name. There's a football coach who used to ban their players, not just for the season, but from the time they stepped on campus to the time they graduated. They could not be on Twitter. So 4 or 5 years, they couldn't be on social media, which I'm fully against, because what if they're marketing majors? What if they're communication majors? I mean, these are platforms that we have to know how to use in the professional world. Whatever profession you're going into now, you have to understand these tools. And it was out of ignorance, because he just didn't understand social media. Well, then he got on Instagram. He was like, wow, this is fun. And then he got on Twitter. He's like, this is great too. So now this coach has embraced it and does not ban their players anymore, because they see the value of what social media really could be.
How have you seen coaches use social media successfully in their programs and for themselves?
You know, I think number one, it depends, right, on what their goals are and what success looks like. I've talked to hundreds of coaches who have said it's helped them in the recruiting process, because it's an easy way for recruits to reach out to them, to be known. It's helped them bring better recruits on campus, because it's a character evaluation tool, so they can watch like what are kids posting, so that makes their program better. I think the big thing for coaches is it's an awareness tool. And your job part of your job is to raise the level of awareness for your program, because the more people know about your program, the more people want to be involved with your program. And social media is just an easy way to do that. You saw Jim Harbaugh a few years ago when he got to Michigan, he was all over Twitter. And it was some controversial stuff, but my guess is he was doing it all on purpose to keep Michigan in the headlines, because Michigan hadn't been very successful. He steps in, he wants everyone thinking about Michigan, and it put all the focus on him and not his players, right? As they're trying to figure out new systems and new coaching staff and all this stuff, all the attention went to him and the Michigan brand, and now they're thriving. I love Mike Boynton at Oklahoma State. He's just absolutely embraced social media. He has fun with it. He praises his players, and he's rallied a community. And I'm an Oklahoma State grad, so a little bit of bias there, but a community that was kind of broken when it comes to the basketball program. There's now unity in the Oklahoma State basketball community because of how he uses social media to engage with the fans. So I think for coaches, again, it's a way to let people know about your program. And you see story after story in the media of they write stories about coaches who use social media, because it's an easy way to engage with reporters. And when you're engaging with them, they want to write stories about you. Even when your program is not winning, they're going to write stories about you, which just raises awareness. So again, I think for a coach, your job isn't to just win games and develop kids. That's part of it. But now it's being a marketer, it's raising awareness, and social media is the easiest way to do that today.
Thank you, Kevin. This has been an amazing conversation about social media, coaches, branding yourself in that space, the simplicity of the content that you can provide for your everyday fans, your student athletes, the community. We thank you so much for being a part of our 3 Pillars Academy digital series.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. And coaches, as you're watching this, don't hesitate to reach out. Right? If you have questions, happy to be a resource, happy to walk you through some ways that you can maximize it on an individual level.